Welcome to my channel. Today I will take you on board MS Togo, an ice-class expedition vessel built for the Arctic and which can take 12 passengers. We are right now on a repositioning voyage from Svalbard up at the pack ice, and we are heading for the passage between Iceland and Greenland, and right now we are in the middle of the Atlantic. What I'm going to show you now is how it is to live on board Togo. How is it to be a passenger on board? And what is it that we are looking for when we are out there? And also, what challenges do we have? I'm talking about the weather, about ice, predators and other things. So yeah, follow me. Yeah. So, how do we live on board? Well, the passengers, they have their cabins down at the main deck or the deck below, and there you will also find the crew cabins. We are, when we are operating, we are some 20 people on board, whereof 8 crew. And that number is restricted by our operating certificate, but also the number of survival suits. Everybody on board needs a survival suit. When talking about cabins, as a captain on board, I'm indeed privileged. I have my cabin on the bridge deck, 2 decks above the noise from the engines and the ice crashing against the hull, and the only cabin on board with 2 windows. What's the catch? The catch is that when the seas build up, which often is the case up here, then the ship begins to roll, and the higher up you are, the more it rolls. So sleeping in my cabin here, which is just behind the bridge, 3 meters away, just such a thing, yeah? But sleeping up here then, it's like sleeping in a roller coaster. And when it happens, you have 3 alternatives. Either you drag the mattress down onto the floor, or you fasten yourself with a belt in the bed, or you can also open the door to the wardrobe, climb in there, take a sitting position, fixed position, and try to get some sleep. But when it comes to the wardrobe, it has happened only once. So how different is it to be a passenger on board an expedition like this compared to an ordinary passenger vessel? Well, quite a big difference, I would say. Take the safety as an example. Our passengers need to quite quickly be able to jump into their survival suits. Something we are training on this clip. Quite fun, actually. The passengers on a ship like this, they are a demanding clientele. They are either scientists, film teams, or adventurers in general. And they have high demands also when it comes to the cuisine. And here we have Milan, our chef from Serbia, the most critical person on board. So, what are you preparing for us today?
I prepare curry for all crew.
Yeah.
And I expect you will come in on our dinner. And we have a smile. Now, life on board is not only about eating, of course. In order to be ready for another expedition, we need to bunker up. It's either done at the bunker pier prior to departure, or like when we left Svalbard a couple of days ago, on our way out at sea. It works well either way, although the ship-to-ship bunkering requires some more planning and care. Each expedition has its purpose, often relating to studying mammals like polar bears, whales and walruses, each with their specific characteristic and which affects how the expedition is carried out. I will come back to this in a few moments. First, I would like to show you how we are coming to our destinations. Here we have Lloyd from Cape Town, our officer of the 12 to 4 watch. So, how is it going?
Yes, very good, thank you.
Right. South African in Arctic, doesn't that sound odd?
Well, pretty odd, very different from where I come from.
Right?
Definitely very cold.
Yeah.
But yeah, stunning place.
We are 3 deck officers on board in charge of the navigational watches. And we have a couple of tools and instruments to help us to do that. There are 2 electronic chart systems. One for navigation and another one as backup and for route planning. Hand steering is done with the joystick, although we most of the time use the autopilot. We have 2 radars, one for navigation and one as backup and for ice detection. On another screen we can follow the vessel traffic in the neighborhood. This is coupled to another screen with more detailed information of the surrounding traffic. Another tool up here is the weather screen, where we get weather forecasts several times a day, and which also enable us to simulate the routing or alternative routing so that we are able to find the best window for a crossing or maybe escaping and approaching low pressure. We do also get daily ice charts. Finally, there is the echo sounder, which helps us to detect whales and walruses as well as the depth below the keel.
When we have been bunked up, it's time to start the voyage, to go out there and find what we are looking for. How is that done?
The one and only, our chief officer Jaren from UK, in charge of the 4 to 8 watch. I note that you have your shorts on. Where are we? Are we at the equator, or are we somewhere else, or are we totally lost?
Well, as you know,
Yeah.
it's July tomorrow, so it must be summer. And if you look outside, it looks very summery. So I thought I'd wear my shorts.
But you are so right.
We're lost. Sorry, we're lost.
Totally lost. Now, okay, so how is it going?
It's marvellous.
Marvelous.
Yeah.
I didn't expect anything else.
It could never be any other way.
When talking about studying the animal life up here, I'm talking about whales, walruses, polar bears, killer whales, etc. How difficult is it to find them?
The sea is full of life. Most species are small and numerous. Others are fewer, but gigantic. Say hello to the humpback whale. Often easy to find through their 3-meter-high air outblows when they surface. But if you can't spot them, just head for the fishing fleets. To be found where the herring shows are, and where the herrings are, there are the whales. The humpback is a hungry creature which can be large as a city bus. They are hunting in groups and feeding 22 hours a day. And they have the capacity. They can swallow their own weight with water and herring in just one mouthful.
Now, when talking about hungry animals, polar bears, are they as dangerous as people say?
And are there any polar bears left? The answer to both questions is yes. The polar bears are there and they are dangerous if you are not taking care. They often show up when you are not expecting it. We are not taking one step ashore unless at least one in the group has a Winchester in his or her right hand. The bears are curious with a cute and almost heartbreaking look, but they are also hungry, so they should not be taken lightly.
When talking about the mammals and species up here, the most charming of them all is the walrus, in my opinion.
They are as big and heavy as a minor car, and they are inveterate herd animals. The colonies can be huge and they are tremendously noisy. They are unashamed but at the same time decent. The females stick to themselves. I'm sure they have the reasons. The males stick to themselves as well, and they are even more noisy. And they know how to entertain each other, which makes them often look somewhat thorn. Immortalized memories from duels about females and rank. But that is of course also seen higher up in the food chain. Maybe this is one out of many common denominators between the mankind and the walruses. They are shy on land, but the more brave in water. If there are any walruses in the water when we are approaching, they start to jump and roll around in all directions, like puppies joyously meeting the master. Their skin can also suddenly change color, from the normal natural brown to white or pink, a consequence of a very sophisticated bloodstream, but which can be quite funny to witness. They have a built-in life vest, a 50-liter air sac on their trachea, which they blow up when it's bedtime. This makes them sleep vertical, with their whole head above the surface, with well-closed eyes. It does look very peaceful, also a little bit funny. But aren't there many funny things in this world?
Then we have the killer whales. And also there you might ask, are they as dangerous as people say?
For the last 20 years, not one single human has been killed by a killer whale out in the wild. On the other hand, have a couple of humans been killed by killer whales in captivity? I will let you draw the conclusions from that yourself. The diving groups we have had on board have not hesitated for a second when it comes to swimming together with these impressive beasts. They are smart animals hunting in groups. The females are typically more brutal than the males. Their cooperation is as sophisticated as their family bands are strong. A male does never leave his mother during his lifetime. He is admittedly leaving the herd when mating, but does always return. The concept of present fathers has not yet been adopted by the male killer whales. The family is ruled by a matriarch. Every family has their own dialect. They are communicating intensely with clicks, squeakings and whistlings. They are smart and learn quickly. The old cooperate in raising the young, learning them to behave. Related families create a clan. Every clan has its own language. One clan cannot communicate with another one. It's like a Russian trying to talk to a Chinese, in a way. They share the food in a solidaric manner. The strong make sure that the old and sick get their share.
Some time ago, I had a passenger as a guest up here on the bridge. And he asked me, "Excuse me, Captain, but don't you think that we are in the wrong place?"
As I mentioned earlier, we are using two electronic chart systems on board. One for navigation and another for backup and route planning. And both showed in this instance that we were sailing some 1.5 kilometers up on dry land. But I replied friendly that, oh no, we are exactly where we should be, and pointed at the water between the ice floes beside the ship. So what's the catch here? Well, thing is that the charts we are using were produced a couple of years ago. Since then, the glacier fronts have melted so that we are now sailing in waters which previously was covered by ice and marked as land on the charts. So what's the challenge with this then? Well, apart from wandering passengers, one challenge is that we don't have a clue what there is under the keel. That we fix through a very slow speed ahead in those waters, or through letting one of our Zodiacs, equipped with a remote echo sounder, cruise in front of the bow. The electronic tracks from this passage is then stored for future use. And also when the passengers have entered their Zodiacs and are out on their missions, we then use the time to cruise back and forth in front of the glacier to charter the water. And the reason is that we then can use one of those tracks, enabling us to quickly leave if, as an example, the wind capsizes, with the risk of building up ice ridges at the fjord entrance, which could then block us in there. When such things occurs and we are fighting against the clock, all systems on board must work. They are numerous, complex, and need to be continuously overlooked.
George, our chief engineer from Uruguay. I mean, George, you are in charge of many complex systems here on board. So tell me, how is it going?
It couldn't be better.
Sounds like music in my ears. Yeah.
See you in a while. I mentioned ice sharks and ice alarms. So what's so remarkable about ice?
Ice is formed everywhere, on the sea and in the air, which deserve cautiousness and respect. It's enough with -2 degrees Celsius in the air and the wind speed of 9 meters per second, and the ice start to build up on windows and out on deck. We also have the glaciers, and where the safety distance to the glacier border is 400 meters, for a reason. So why all this talk about glacier ice or blue ice, which is also called? Thing is that it's hard like rock, which is not the case with the sea ice. Why is that? It's because the sea ice is formed when the sea surface is freezing. It's full of small air bubbles, which makes it so porous that no light is penetrating the ice and it is therefore not absorbed. The blue ice, on the other hand, is something else and much more serious. This is what the icebergs consist of. In this regard, sometimes you will be able to experience a rolling iceberg. Here a clip taken by our expedition leader Christian Brütter some time ago. Random ice erosion creates an imbalance which gets the iceberg to turn around. When that happens, it can start rolling in any direction. Then you have to be somewhat alert, I would say. That blue ice is formed by snow layers which has been packed for thousands, or in the case of Antarctic, millions of years. The pressure from the snow above packs the underlying layers so hard that it's transformed into glacier ice. So hardly packed that all air is pressed out and the ice becomes transparent and clear as pure glass. So transparent that all wavelengths of the light, except for the blue and shortest of the wavelengths, is penetrated and absorbed by the ice. Therefore, as a paradox, the blue color we perceive with our eyes is the only color which the ice doesn't have. As a curiosity, when passing through blue drift ice, you can hear sounds like gunshots from the ice created by those utterly small air remains in the ice, which expands by the higher outer temperature and blows the ice apart. Sometimes we pick up some small pieces of ice to put into the passengers' drinks prior to dinner. Then they have to take care so that this little ice cube doesn't blow the glass apart. It has actually happened.
When we are approaching the glaciers, it could happen that you will see the captain and the officer of the watch standing there on the bridge, staring straight up into the sky instead of head of a ship where we are steering. And you might ask, why is that?
The entrance to the fjords and glaciers are sometimes narrow, with both steep and high mountain sides on both sides. The air pressure variation when a vessel is passing creates sometimes an air vibration, which creates an avalanche from the snow parties sticking out from the mountainsides. No good for the passengers and for the ship's stability. This makes us extremely cautious, and we are just entering when...
Oh yes, the weather. You might ask, is it as bad as they say?
Normally, during summertime, the weather is reasonably stable up in the Arctics. The sun is up 24 hours a day and winds normally comfortable. However, there is no place on Earth where the weather is so unpredictable. And the weather forecasts are therefore usually not reliable for more than 48 hours. On Svalbard, it's however enough to go in and seek protection should a serious low pressure pass by. The entire island is surrounded by fjords and sheltered areas. When that's said, it could of course happen that the ship will face serious seas and winds. But when it occurs, it's only for the limited time it takes to reach protection. And it's also worth noting that Togo is built for the roughest weather you can imagine. So she is a good boat to stay on when the winds are blowing.